Hi, everybody, and welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm Dan Illman. Thanks so much for watching. Here's what's coming up in this week's edition of Out of the Gate. Lots of turf racing to discuss. DRF handicappers Mike Beer, Matt Bernier, and I will take a peek at the Grade 1 Woodbine Mile, the Grade 1 Northern Dancer Turf, part of a tremendous card on Saturday at Woodbine. We'll also look at the Sands Point Stakes for 3-year-old fillies at beautiful Belmont Park. Nicole Russo's pedigree pick segment focuses on one of the Breeders' Cup Challenge Series races. A win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. It's the Iroquois Stakes at Churchill Downs. JK's Play of the Day, a daily double at Woodbine. David Aragona's Timeform US Spotlight race, the 7th at Belmont Park. Plus horses to watch, best bets, tournament talk, and lots more. So let's break Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate with our Horse Watch segment. Mike Beer, NYRA analyst, show us how to make some real money with this horse watch.
We'll see. Real money was a first-time starter. The final race on Saturday, the turf course, a little bit chewed up, a little bit soft. This horse was making his career debut, going a mile on the grass. We can pick up the replay. He went to the lead early in this race, showed really good speed. He was a little bit headstrong and hard to settle, and then he took on challenges. The two favorites in the race, two horses who had already run, trained by a couple guys named Pletcher and Brown. They came after him really early in here. I like the way that he fought back. He held these horses off all the way down inside the 8th pole, and then he just got tired at the end. I think this is a horse who needed this race. He is a 1/2 to 2 stakes winners on the grass, and I just felt like this was the kind of debut. At the end of the day, he's going to get tired and be a distant third. But this is the kind of race this horse could really build off, I think.
Matt, now your horse was racing on turf for the first time as well at Kentucky Downs and really gave a sharp performance. Perhaps Valladorna has found a new home.
Yeah, I have to be honest with you. I don't really know if I totally believe what I saw from last Saturday, but we're going to take a look. This is the Kentucky Downs Ladies Turf, and you brought it up, Dan. This is the first time Valladorna has tried the turf. Now, we know what she's already done. She's a graded stakes winner earlier this year going long on dirt, but she took her game to the next level here. She put away all the other speeds, and she's just going to get run down by Insta Irma coming in from Southern California. The reason I say I don't know what to do with her, Dan, is because, okay, it was her first time on turf. Maybe she woke up in a big way. Or did she really appreciate Kentucky Downs? And we've known that certain horses they've taken to that course a little bit better than others. Nonetheless, I thought it was a promising enough effort. She earned a 98 buyer, and I think she's one that at least just keep an eye and see where she shows up next. If they try her on turf, she's probably going to be another big price considering Kentucky Downs, and it was only her first time on the grass.
Plenty of options down the road for Valladorna. We know she can step on dirt, and now she's got that nice turf fallback. World of Trouble was a horse that really started his career in a big way. His first 2 wins on dirt came by a combined 27 3/4 lengths, and it led to him being the favorite in both the Tampa Bay Derby and the Woody Stevens Stakes on dirt. 2 good races, and he ran well both times, but he's found himself as a turf sprinter. He won his turf debut in the Quick Call Stakes, and last time out in the Allied Forces Stakes. We're going to take a look at that race right now. He's favored. He was helped by a big scratch of Gadoo, but he turns into the stretch, and he just opens up on this field at will. He earns a 103 buyer speed figure. Now, both of his turf races have come on courses with a lot of give in it, but they've both been very impressive. He's got great tactical speed. I think this horse is probably a notch shy of being a Breeders' Cup Dirt Sprint type horse or a Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile type horse, but I think the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint would fit very well into World of Trouble's plans. He's trained by Jason Service. Now we got to hike him up and face older horses, but he's a very promising turf sprinter. Let's get to some handicapping. The Woodbine Mile is Saturday's race of the day. Let's take a look at the field for Saturday's DRF race of the day. It's the Grade 1 Woodbine Mile. $800,000 is the purse, a 1-turn mile over the Woodbine E.P. Taylor Turf Course. 4:48 p.m. Eastern is your post time. For expanded stakes previews, visit video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. We cover all the graded stakes races all weekend long, and you can access free Formulator Pass performances for the mile on the Race of the Day event page at drf.com. Mike Delta Prince has been in raging form since he's come back off the layoff. He's the morning line favorite in here. He's got the fast races.
Yeah, I mean, there's not that much to really knock about what he's done since he switched over to turf. 4 turf starts last year as a 4-year-old. He ran really well in all of those. 2 turf starts so far this year as a 5-year-old. he's run even better. And those two, he won a stakes race up here off the layoff, and then he came back and he did this at Saratoga last time in the Grade 1 4-star date. I mean, he ran really well in this race. He's closing from off the pace. This is a race where the winner, Voodoo Song, just controlled this pace on the front end, and he makes a really big run at Voodoo Song in this race. Looks like late stages here, he might actually get by this horse, but Voodoo Song, when he's right, he's not easy to pass. You can see the Visideros closing down the outside. He's not going to find enough late. He's going to come up short, but I thought this was a good effort from Delta Prince. Listen, guys, he's the morning line favorite. I'm not so sure that I think he's the best horse in this race, but he's certainly a major contender in here.
Matt, the number 1 Good Samaritan's a millionaire, and it seems like he's done it all, dirt or turf, but a lot of people forget that he was a graded stakes winner as a 2-year-old over this turf course at this distance.
Yeah, to be honest, I've thought for a long time that turf is actually his game, in spite of the fact, or despite the fact, that he's gone on and done some big things on the dirt. We're going to go back to arguably the biggest win of his career. This was in the Jim Dandy last year up at Saratoga, and you see him on the outside. He's going to come and just absolutely dust the Derby and the Preakness winner. But to be honest with you, his form recently anyway, in 2018, it's been a little bit suspect. But to me, this is kind of what I've always felt like he is. He's a late-running turf horse. 1-turn mile, not going to be a problem for him. We saw him successfully do this as a 2-year-old at Woodbine. I just think he's a very, very interesting horse in here. I don't know what you're going to get for a price, though, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with everything Matt said, but I don't know what kind of price he's going to be in this race either. But I'm happy to give him a chance back to turf. At the end of the day, I just don't really like any of his dirt races. I know he's won a couple of Grade 2 on the main track. I don't like any of his dirt races. I think he's a way better horse on the grass, and I think he should catch a fairly reasonable setup in this race, and I just think he'll improve switching back over to turf.
So both of you guys like Good Samaritan in this race. I'm going to go with the European, or one of them, the number 6, Lord Glitters. Just consider what European-based trainer David O'Meara has done over the last few years in North America. Mondialiste 2015 came over to Woodbine, won the mile. 2016, Mondialiste won the Arlington Million. Last year, Suédois won the Shadwell Turf Mile. He's going to try to win the Woodbine Mile in 2018 with Lord Glitters, the number 6. Horse that I thought a little bit of trouble in Group 1 company, 2 back in the Sussex Stakes. He was sort of in behind horses till about the final furlong, altered course to the far outside, finished evenly to be beat 2 lengths. He followed that effort up with a drop in class to a Group 3 Stakes. We're going to take a look at that race right now, and I like the way he gutted this one out. A mile and a 16th at this point in his career might be a little bit too far. He's the grade that's going to be splitting horses. He's going to take the lead at about the furlong and a half pole, and he's just going to outfinish a horse that had previously won 3 of his last 4 races. It was a drop in class for Lord Glitters, but he has shown the ability to step in Group 1 competition. Not only that good third that we talked about in the Sussex Stakes 2 starts back, but just missed in the Queen Anne at Ascot by a half length 4 starts back. It just looks like Lord Glitters is in good form. Euros have done well in this race in the past. First time Lasix. I'll take a shot with Lord Glitters in the Woodbine Mile. Nicole Russo's Pedigree Pick segment focuses on the Iroquois Stakes for 2-year-olds, and then we've got Peter Thomas Fornatel's Tournament Talk, where he gives you all the latest news and notes in the worlds of tournaments.
Hey everyone, Nicole Russo coming to you for Out of the Gate to take a look at Saturday's Grade 3 Iroquois Stakes at Churchill Downs. This race doesn't just offer an automatic berth into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, this year of course also at Churchill, but also is the first race offering qualifying points toward the 2019 Kentucky Derby. Now, Tight 10, very likely to be favored here. The son of leading sider Tapit won his debut here at Churchill. Then was a good, if green, second in the Grade 2 Saratoga Special. However, I want to give you a few notes on some well-bred horses coming out of Ellis Park, which is a really solid 2-year-old program that flies under the radar. Tobacco Road has 2 7-furlong starts under his belt for a nice foundation, including this win in the Ellis Park Juvenile in a long drive. He's by Quality Road, who, of course, had a career year last year with 2 Eclipse champions, and who's having a solid summer with his 2-year-olds. Several stakes performers out there at the big summer meets, including Del Mar debutante winner Bellafina. Tobacco Road's Stakes Place Dam produced multiple graded winner Isabella Sings, and as well as Alora Michelle, who was a stakes winner as a juvenile. Both of those on turf, a lot of turf in the family, but Quality Road definitely one I'd consider a multi-purpose sire. Finishing a close third in that Ellis Juvenile was Manny Wah, who is from the first crop of Will Take Charge. The colt hasn't missed the board yet in his career, and you have to think he'll appreciate the added distance being by Will Take Charge. His dam certainly adds credence to that. She's a stakes-winning half to Derby runner-up Lookin' at Lee and Grade 3 winner Blended Citizen. And really quickly, two other very well-bred horses who broke their maidens at Ellis over the summer. You're watching My Sixth Sense by Street Sense. He's a full brother to multiple Grade 1 winner Sweet Reason. Really a terrific filly, particularly if she caught a wet track, so keep that in mind. He's also a half to Grade 3 winner Don't Forget Gil and stakes winner Battle Girl. And then you've got Pole Setter by Take Charge Indy, out of Grade 1 winning juvenile Irish Smoke from the immediate family of Grade 1 winner Book Review. A lot of zip there. Again, the Iroquois officially starts the Road to the Kentucky Derby series. Of course, we'll be offering plenty of pedigree analysis along the line here, so keep an eye out on drf.com as we begin tracking these race results and point standings. But for now, let's see you over to Peter for tournament talk for the weekend.
Peter Thomas Fornatal back with you on Out of the Gate, back in Brooklyn, not in the bunker, in the sort of upstairs area I sometimes call the Brooklyn Salon on the podcast. Those of you watching as opposed to listening will see I'm wearing a Turkish national team jersey. I did throw on the blue hat, get sort of a red, white, and blue thing going on here as well, but the important part is the Turkish national team jersey. I'm trying it on for size. I will be wearing it this weekend at the Woodbine Mile contest. Why? In honor of Ali Aksoy, last year's winner of the Woodbine Mile contest. Last couple of years, I've had a bet with Mike Eves, the contest director, and the idea was if an American player won, he would have to wear a New York Islanders jersey, my hockey team, and if a Canadian player won, he was going to, I think his move was to outfit me in an Ottawa Senators jersey and then send me through the grandstand at Woodbine, presumably to have fruit and other objects thrown at me. Thanks, Mike. But what ended up happening is Ali Aksoy won Turkish national as well as a Canadian national, I think, but because of the Turkish national bit, decided to opt for this beauty, and I'm pretty happy with the choice. I'll be looking very fashionable in the Woodbine Club on Saturday. Wonder if they'll let me in. Wonder what the dress code is up there. I may have to wear a jacket over this thing. That'll be quite a look, but I'll pull it off, I think. It is not too late to sign up for this year's Woodbine Mile contest, especially if you're an American player. Need to pack as many American players there as possible so I can make Mike Eves wear the Ottawa Senators jersey last year. I had him in the Islanders kit. He got enough dirty looks with that one last year after we had an American player win 2 years ago. But you have the opportunity to walk up and play in this event. It is a great contest. The field size isn't going to be huge. There's going to be a great ratio of entries to prizes. That's one thing. A USA player who wins will get a VIP trip back to Woodbine for International Day in a month. That's a pretty cool perk. And whether you're Canadian or American, you're eligible for a $1 million bonus. This is a $3,500 live bank event. That translates, I think, to about $2,600, $2,700 US dollars. An appealing price point. Great tournament, great day of racing for graded stakes. I'm sure you'll be hearing folks talk about those races throughout the rest of this week's Out of the Gate. If you can't make it up to Woodbine, you can always play tournaments via DRF tournaments this weekend. Have an opportunity to do that. Tournaments.drf.com, chances to win in to the Orleans contest as well as Keeneland's contest in October. Very popular events. Go to DRFT, check it out. All right, folks, I got a plane to catch. I got to run. But good to check in with you. Good to rock the Turkish national team jersey. Hope to see some of you anyway up at Woodbine this weekend. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatal. Stay tuned for more on Out of the Gate.
horse player looking to raise your game? For over 120 years, expert handicappers have relied on Daily Racing Form as their must-have source for news and data, featuring exclusive buyer speed figures, Timeform US pace figures, and integrated replays. DRF Formulator is the most powerful handicapping tool on the market today. Use what the pros use. Go to drf.com/formulator and enter code DRFTV to get your first card free. drf.com. Raise your game.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Let's throw up the field for the Grade 1 Northern Dancer Turf at 1.5 miles at Woodbine on Saturday, carded as race number 11. $300,000 is the purse. For expanded stakes previews of all the graded stakes races all weekend long, head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Matt, the beaten favorite in the 2017 Northern Dancer Turf, is back for more. That's Hawkbill. He is a big speed.
Yeah, he's going to be forwardly placed. You know what his game is. He wants to get out there and cut out the fractions, and he is the class of this field. There is no denying that. We're going to take a look at his most recent run. This was in the Coral Eclipse. This is a Group 1. And just look at the running lines and look at some of the names that he's been going against. You see Roaring Lion's going to get the better of him here. But Saxon Warrior, Poet's Word, Cracksman, he's faced the best of the best. He's a Group 1 winner on the international stage. Why am I having such a hard time getting last year's loss in this race out of my head when Johnny Bear, who he'll face again on Saturday, went and got him at the wire? Hawkbill, to me, he's not supposed to lose a race like that. And coming into a spot like this at a short price, I don't totally trust him.
Mike, I know you feel the same exact way as Matt does about Hawkbill. That's why you're going for another runner in here. Graham Motion has Mektal, a horse that had legitimate European form. He's come over to North America, and perhaps he's rounding back into his best.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't think any of us are going to be surprised when Hawkbill just wires this field as the best horse, but I'm with Matt. I wanted to take a shot against him at a short price, and I thought Mektal, if nothing else, I thought maybe this race would be run to suit him a little bit better than his most recent start was. We'll go back to the Nijinsky right now. This race was run over course and distance. You can see Mektal's at the back of the field there. On the lead is Tiz Slam. He wired this field, took him all the way. Mektal switching to the outside from off the pace at the top of the stretch here. He's got his shot at it down inside. That's Johnny Bear, who Matt referenced before. He had his chance at it too. Not good enough. Mektal, he's closing down the outside. I felt like he could get there. He doesn't quite get there. I still feel like this was a race that was a good prep for the Grade 1 try here in the Northern Dancer, a race that didn't set up that well for him. He gets up for second at the end. He has some back form that suggests he's plenty good enough to beat this field. If we don't get the best Hawkbill that we can get in this race, I think this might be the second best horse in the race.
Matt, you're looking for a big price with Patterson Cross, a horse that certainly has races in 2017 from a speed figure standpoint that show he's good enough to win this race. The issue is, boy, it just seems like he finds trouble each and every time.
Yeah, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. He's a bit of an underachiever at this point. I thought he was going to go on and do bigger and better things, especially early on when he was a 3-year-old, and it just hasn't developed. But at the same time, I think he can make a little bit of a case here, particularly at this course and at this distance. We're going to go back to the John's Call. This is his most recent run up at Saratoga, 1 mile and 5/8. And look, he's going to have a little bit of trouble in deep stretch, but at the end of the day, I don't think that made a difference. I don't think he was ever going to threaten to win this race. The thing I see when I look at this horse, Patterson Cross, and I think about the 1.5 miles on Saturday at Woodbine, was such a long stretch. I think it really turns into a war of attrition, and I feel like Patterson Cross is going to be able to see out the distance and stay the trip just as well as anyone, if not better. And at 10-1, I think I'll take a shot with him.
Hawkbill's the speed in this race, but there could be some others with eyes on pushing him early, most notably Tiz Slam. That sets things up for horses like Patterson Cross. But I'll agree with Mike, and I'm going to go with Mektal, again, a Group 1 stakes winner in France last year. His race in the Nijinsky last time out, the fractions 51-4, 117. I know it was a good turf course, but they were going slow, and Tiz Slam took advantage. They go faster this time around, I believe, in the Grade 1 Northern Dancer, and it plays right into the hooves of the number 1 Mektal. We'll move back to the States for our next stakes preview. The Sands Point is coming up. Here's the field for the feature race at Belmont Park on Saturday. It is the Sands Point Stakes, a Grade 2 event, carded as race number 9. $400,000 is the purse. It's for 3-year-old fillies going 1 1/8 on the inner turf. For expanded stakes previews, we cover all the graded races all weekend long. Head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. We cover every horse and every race in great detail. Gents, Chad Brown has 3 of the 8 entrants in the Sands Point. None of us is picking a Chad Brown trained runner. Mike, you like one of the foreign invaders. Tell us about Victorine.
Yeah, 3 French fillies shipping in for the Sands Point, so we'll see what happens. Chad has 2 of them. I'll go with the other one just because it feels like Victorine, number 5, could wind up being the best price of these horses. And she's just a filly who feels like she's very lightly raced, feels like she's getting better from start to start. She won her starts 2 and 3 back over in France very, very impressively. And then they came up and they tried her in a group race in her most recent start. We'll look at that video right now. I thought she ran fine in this race. She's sitting in behind the lead the entire way. The horse that wins the race is right in front of her. She's been on the lead the entire way. And Victorine just can't get to her at the end. She's going to eventually push her way off the inside to get a look at this thing. And I think she finishes very gamely here. She's just not good enough. The leader's not coming back for her. I thought all in all, a pretty good try for this horse. And what I like most about her, guys, is she's got some tactical speed. In all of her races, she sits up close. And that could really help her chances in a race like this one.
Chad Brown has 3 in this race. Matt, Graham Motion has 2, including Colonia, who is a 1-run closer, perhaps at the mercy of race and pace luck. I loved her race 2 starts back at Arlington. What happened last time?
Well, I think it was a combination of things. She didn't have the cleanest go of it at the back of the pack because when the real running began, she was just kind of held back. We're going to take a look at the stretch run right now. You're also going to see California Gold Rush in this race as well. She's the first one spot shadowed, but here comes Colonia splitting horses. And to be honest with you, I think it was just a little bit of a too passive ride from Joel Rosario. If she was a little bit closer, a little bit more into the run, and I realize she is a 1-run closer, I think she gets a heck of a lot closer to the front in this spot. Instead, she was forced to wait in behind horses briefly and finally split, came with that big finish at the end. I just think it's one of those instances. If a little bit more of an aggressive ride, get her into the run a little bit earlier, I don't think she's going to have a problem seeing out the distance. Just let her kind of roll. I'd rather have that than have you sit back too long and end up having something like that happen again.
I think this is going to be a jockey's race. I think it's going to be a tactical race without a lot of pace. I think Chad Brown's Shadan, the number 2, a horse that's shown speed over there, given an alert break, is going to go to the lead, but there really isn't a lot of other horses that like to be forwardly placed. California Gold Rush in her second lifetime start, and she was so impressive in both starts last year for Neil Drysdale, showed the ability to stay close to a moderate pace. And I think those tactics would serve her very well in the Sands Point because Shadan might be a little bit overmatched on class. Maybe this horse for Drysdale can take over turning into the stretch. We saw her most recent race where she finished ahead of Colonia. It was her first start off of a long layoff. I thought she was very game to finish 3rd, and she improved her buyer by leaps and bounds. She's so lightly raced, I think another forward move is in the cards for California Gold Rush, and she's my top pick in the Sands Point Stakes. JK's play of the day, a daily double at Woodbine. David Aragona's Timeform US Spotlight race is the 7th at Belmont on Saturday. Let's go to those segments right now.
Hey everybody, welcome to JK's Play of the Day. This week we're going to go to north of the border, to Toronto. Last time I was in Toronto, I was fortunate enough to be a part of a really fun win with 10 Strike Racing and Long On Value winning the Grade 1. Unfortunately, he had a little bit of an injury, so he didn't make this race, but I still wanted to pay attention to it. The Grade 1 Woodbine Mile, the 1-turn mile up in Woodbine. It's a win and you're in race for the Breeders' Cup. It's an exciting race. It's an exciting time up in Toronto with the Toronto Film Festival. We're going to play a daily double starting in race 8. I'm going to use 3 horses in the first leg. I'm going to use the 1 Good Samaritan. That horse ran an absolute huge race in the Breeders' Cup a few years back. I think this horse obviously can run on the dirt with his wins at Saratoga, but is also a turf horse. I'm excited to see him back on the turf with Joel Rosario. I'm also going to use the 7 Oscar Performance, cutting back in distance a little bit, but has that tactical speed to be forwardly placed. Obviously has some stamina. He's run some races at much longer distances. I think he could be tough in this spot. And then I got to use the old trusty Visidero. It's going to be interesting to see him in this 1-turn mile and what he can do. If they can, he hasn't always excelled at these shorter distances, but he ran well enough in the 4-star Dave. Maybe he'll get a little bit of pace to close into. Timeform doesn't think so, but with Oscar Performance being in here, being forwardly placed, I think that it could quicken up a little bit. But Visidero's shown his talent. I think that he's one that you definitely want to consider as a late running threat with that really long stretch that he'll get at Woodbine. I think he could be dangerous. And then on to the Canadian, the Grade 2 race at 1 1/8 for the fillies and mares, 3-year-old and up. Daring Duchess wants to go longer for me. The 1.5 mile, 1 3/16 races are what kind of fit what she's done in the past. I'm going to use the 2 Chad horses. What's wrong with doing that on the turf, whether it's in north of the border in the U.S. or down here in the United States? It doesn't matter. It's North America. It's Chad. It's turf. I'm going to use the 3 Inflexibility, who ran a good race here at Woodbine, beaten by in the Dance Motley, beaten by Santa Monica. who's obviously a quality type, and then New Money Honey, who had the failed dirt attempt last year, but has found her way back on the turf and ran well in that allowance race at Belmont. Wasn't really the performance we expected in the Grade 1 Diana, but this is a little bit of class relief for her, and I don't think Chad would put her on the plane if she wasn't doing well. That's all I need is those two Chad horses. I think that one of them, they should both be forwardly placed, so they shouldn't have any trip excuses. They both should be able to finish well enough. I'm going to use the 3 and the 5 and the back end of the double. Good luck up at Woodbine. Have fun.
Hi, everyone. This is David Aragona with this week's Timeform US Spotlight. We're going to be taking a look at the 7th race at Belmont Park on Saturday. It's the race that kicks off the late pick 4 sequence, which features a really interesting stakes race in the 9th race, the Sands Point. That's a really tricky leg where you might want to spread out a bit. Let's try to narrow it down, though, in this 7th race, which I think is one of the more straightforward ones in the sequence. We'll take a look at the field on the Timeform US preview screen. And the two horses likely to attract the most money are the number 3, Ascot Walk, who's the 2-to-1 morning line favorite, and the number 7, Curious and Curiouser, who's coming off a win at Saratoga. Let's start by taking a look at the favorite, Ascot Walk, the number 3. She's only made 3 starts for Kieran McLaughlin, and she's shown some ability. She probably needed her debut, and she came back with a vastly improved performance second time out at Saratoga, earning a respectable 104 Timeform US speed figure. She came back next time out against a much tougher allowance race than the one she's facing here. You might notice the 110 Timeform US race rating on the left-hand side of the screen next to the race date. The preliminary race rating for this race is just a 102, which indicates that the race she was coming out of is a much tougher spot than this one, and she ran respectably that day. She finished 3rd against some nice horses, Dancing All Night and Sweet By and By. The 1st and 2nd place finishers will both be very formidable in this spot, so I think that Ascot Walk is the horse to beat based off that effort, and she probably doesn't need to run much better to win this race, but she's going to be a relatively short price, so I want to take a look at some others. Her main rival might be Curious and Curiouser, who's coming off a win. She's actually won 2 of her last 3 starts for trainer Chris Englehart. She won for a $12,500 claiming tag 3-back, but since then she's really stepped up in class. Last time out, she won a starter allowance $50,000 race, so she's stepping up again out of that performance. You notice the race rating of that race was just a 94, which compares pretty negatively to the 110 race rating of the race that Ascot Walk is coming out of and the 102 race rating of this race. So she is taking a pretty big step up in class. Her Timeform US speed figure suggests she has to improve a little bit. And also, the main favorite in the race she's coming out of, a horse trained by Joe Sharp, Maho Bay. I think she was the odds-on favorite in that August 26th race, actually. Just failed to show up at all, so it was actually a much easier spot than it even appeared to be on paper for Curious and Curiouser last time. I think she's stepping up in class a bit too much, and I'm a little against her in this spot. The horse that interests me most, though, is actually a horse that finished behind Ascot Walk last time, and we'll take a look at the Timeform US pace projector just to illustrate how formidable the number 2 horse, Palladian Bridge, might be in this spot. When you go through this entire field, there are a lot of closers, late runners in this race. There really isn't that much speed in the field, and the only horse that is predicted to be anywhere near her on the front end is Ascot Walk, who is really not a front runner herself. She's more of a stalking type, so I don't think she's going to apply that much pressure to Palladian Bridge early. We'll take a look at Palladian Bridge's PPs. Now, she just didn't show up last time in that race that Ascot Walk was 3rd in, but being on track that day, I'm watching the video feed beforehand, and you could see it based on the short comment, fractious post-parade. Palladian Bridge just had a total meltdown before that race. I don't know what was going on. I had never seen her behave so badly before. She just didn't seem like her mind was on running before the race, and when they came out of the gate, she did not show her customary early speed, and she just was totally discombobulated. So I want to kind of draw a line through that race and not really pay much attention to it. I think that it's a good sign that Ray Handel is bringing her back on such short rest. There's no scary layoff coming out of that race. And her prior form just makes her very dangerous. I mean, coming out of a similar spot on July 20th, that was also a pretty tough allowance field up at Saratoga. She ran very well that day, surviving an honest pace to be 3rd behind Dancing All Night, who came back and ran so well in that August 17th race. And she's run multiple speed figures that make her very tough in this spot. If she gets back to her good races, I think she's good enough to beat this field, and the pace projector indicates that she's going to have a significant advantage. So I'm taking Palladian Bridge in this spot. She's probably going to be around the 3rd choice, which is good enough for me. And hopefully we can narrow it down and get her home in the first leg of this pick 4 sequence. So Palladian Bridge for me in the 7th race at Belmont on Saturday. Now let's send it back to the studio.
Time for our best bet segment here on Out of the Gate. Matt, you're going to make the folks wait till Monday.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad about that. But then again, I don't really feel that bad, if I'm being honest. The Presque Isle Downs Masters, race number 6 on Monday afternoon. 6.5 furlongs on the Tapeta surface. There's a filly in here. There are a couple horses that you can make a case for. but there's one in here that I think she's just taking her game to the next level for Graham Motion. That's Lady Alexandra. We're going to go back to the Grade 1 Highlander. This is her most recent start up at Woodbine. I know it's on turf and she's never run on synth, but to be honest with you, if she can successfully transfer half of that form over, I think she's going to be an absolute handful. You see here, she's just going to get run down by a really talented and sharp horse and long on value. This was at 6 furlongs. The Presque Isle Masters is at 6.5 furlongs. So maybe that additional ground is going to be a little bit of a concern. To be honest, I've thrown her in my DRF horse watch because I'm hopeful that they choose to go on to the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint because I think she has a giant chance in there.
Mike Biernaira, analyst, conventional best bet, Saturday at Belmont.
Race 7 at Belmont, a 1X allowance, and it's a 1X allowance that at the end of the day, it just did not come up that strong. I'm going with number 2, Palladian Bridge in this race. She is not your typical best bet kind of horse because she is one of those older fillies or mares who doesn't always show up. There are races where she will not show up and run her best race. That's what happened last time. I'm going to forget about her last race at Saratoga where she was inexplicably rated off the pace and didn't run at all. This is her race 2 starts back, though. If she can run something like this, this is a field that she can beat. She has speed. They put her right on the front. This was actually a good 1X allowance field, and she's going to make it down to deep stretch before she gets run down by the streaking Hayfield, who has won 5 of her last 6 and just came back and won again at Belmont the other day. Palladian Bridge is supposed to go right to the front in this race, and if she runs her best race, this is a field she can wire.
A couple of good 2-year-old stakes races at Churchill Downs on Saturday, but there's also another one at Canterbury, and a Minnesota bred caught my eye. That's Mr. Banjo Man. You don't see too many Minnesota bred geldings sell for $200,000, but that's what this McLean's Music one went for at Fasig-Tipton last year and looked the part in his career debut, winning off by 5.5 lengths at 4.5 furlongs. Now, they stretched him out to 6 furlongs for his second lifetime start, and he's the favorite, and he's turning into the stretch with the lead. But Dame Plata's 3 for 3 now in his career. He had a little bit more experience than Mr. Banjo Man, and he's going to eventually take the measure of Mr. Banjo Man all the way down to the wire. All in all, a good effort. Mr. Banjo Man has now earned 71 Beyer speed figures in both lifetime starts. I think he'll be forwardly placed at Canterbury Park on Saturday. 7-2 on the morning line. We're going to get all the Banjomans at Canterbury with our best bet. We thank you so much for watching Out of the Gate, and we urge you to follow all of DRF TV's latest offerings on Twitter at DRF Video. And also for the latest news and notes from America's Turf Authority Daily Racing Form, follow on Twitter at DRF Inside Post. That's all for this week. Best of luck when your horses break out of the gate.